Little news coming across the Twitter wire. You can't even refresh fast enough at this time of year. It's just absolute madness. Ka'Morreun Pimpton heading into the transfer portal. We talked at the top of the show about LSU's needs in said portal, and Luke Hasz from Arkansas, a tight end that they are welcoming in for a visit, is a guy they're going to target heavily here because they have one tight end on the roster, Trey'Dez Green, and he looks more like a basketball player than a tight end. So they got work to do at tight end for sure. Of course, J.D. LaFleur in this class, son of David LaFleur, but that's just two guys. They've got work to do. Probably multiple tight ends in this transfer portal class. It's been nuts to watch, but that's the nature of what we're doing here in this era of college athletics. Glen West covers it all for Go 24/7, joins us every Tuesday on the Jim's Firearms Hotline. Glenn, how are we doing?
Doing great, Hunt. I believe we were around 2 or 3 transfer portal additions at this time last week, and so now we're up to 14. So we'll see if a few more don't hop in, but we're certainly in the thick of it now.
Is that a concern, 14 guys in the portal?
I don't think so. I think really up until today's decision from Pimpton, I don't know that, a lot of those guys are ones that you miss. I mean, I guess you could make the case for Deshaun Womack, certainly. I think he probably would have slid in and been a starter for you next year, or at least competed for a starting role. But outside of him and then Pimpton today, I would say those are the two most significant ones. I think you kind of build up a lot of those other rooms where you lost some of the depth with some quality players here over the next several weeks. But this, tight end now becomes an absolute must. I mean, like it's got to be right up there now with, with safety, with wide receiver, with offensive line, with defensive line. I think all those position groups now are very much all in the same boat.
What is your sense on LSU's ability to land the guys that are visiting Ole Miss, that are visiting A&M, like the top of the transfer portal? My point at the top of the show is I know they can get a visit. They got visits last year. The question is, can you get them? What's your sense on where LSU stands there?
Yeah, I think it all comes down to how much you value those players. And, if there's another school that's out there, I think it's very similar to what Brian Kelly was talking about with the freshmen. If you're going to have a price point, you're going to negotiate. And if another school comes out there and exceeds it, it's just about how much of an appetite do you have for kind of upping your price and trying to figure that out. So I think with the portal, it's so much harder with the portal to develop those quick relationships. You really have to make a strong pitch for playing time, and then obviously a huge piece of it is the finances with the portal. I mean, you really can't I don't think build up a whole relationship with a player off of one meeting or a couple of days of interaction with them. So you have to make sure that the pitch and the visit is compelling enough, and obviously the financial part of it is something that I'm still in a wait and see mode with this group. I mean, we haven't seen them open the bag for a lot of these highly touted transfer portal guys. They've obviously hit on several of them over the last couple of years, whether it's Jaden Daniels or Mekhi Wingo, or you just go down the line of a couple of the guys that they've landed here over the last or over the first couple of cycles. But we'll have to just wait and see, because they need a lot of help, a lot of starter caliber help at a lot of different areas. And I just don't know what the funding looks like, and just how aggressive they're going to be in terms of getting those guys to campus if other schools are making big pushes as well.
How differently do you think Brian Kelly feels about assembling a roster than he did 12, 15 months ago?
I think if you listen to his press conference last week, he sounded like a coach that has really going to have to alter his thinking, I think, going forward. And whether that's recruiting freshmen and transfers in the same kind of way, I don't know the answer to that question. I think it's something we have to figure out over the next year or two with how LSU recruits and what kind of guys they land on a year in, year out basis. But I think this whole thing is, it's shaken all the coaches around the country, and kind of just having to reevaluate maybe how they've practiced things in the past, and how they have to kind of quickly develop a new way of thinking, and how to build a better roster for your team. I think it's so year to year now. I mean, that's one of the things that I took away from, well, when Will Wade was here as the basketball coach. He just talked about how you just have to plan for one year ahead. You really can't afford to plan for 2 or 3 years ahead in any sport now, and that certainly is the case with football. And how quickly these guys hop into the portal, and how much roster turnover you have. I mean, you could see 50, 60% of your roster turnover on a year in, year out basis, and you really have to be able to be not only diligent in your evaluation, but also with your pitches, and certainly with the NIL part of it as well, to develop those relationships and get those high quality players on board.
You mentioned Will Wade. I mean, Jay Johnson said it too. He said it's year to
Yeah.
year, it's roster to roster. I mean, I think when that class that he had that had Kling and Neal and all those guys in it, and he kind of thought that was going to be the next iteration of what LSU was going to be post Cruz and Dugas and all that, and then all those guys up and left. It was kind of like, well, I guess you just got to go get a bunch of new guys, and that's the way that you've got to handle it. Obviously, what are your thoughts on Garrett Nussmeier right now?
Yeah, I think it's interesting that we haven't heard anything yet. I mean, I'm not hitting the panic button or anything, but because I do ultimately think that he comes back, but I think he's being very diligent right now in his conversations with whether or not he wants to go pro. I mean, this is a very light quarterback class in terms of, the talent. I think most people are kind of in agreement there that this isn't as deep of a talented quarterback class as maybe there have been in recent years, or even when you look ahead to 2026 and just kind of the big names that could pop in that class. So I think there's a lot for Garrett to think about right now, but I do know I take him for his word that he loves LSU. I think he, in a perfect world, would love to come back here, but if there's a team out there, and his dad is as connected as anyone in the NFL in terms of the scouting and what teams are thinking about the quarterback class for this upcoming draft, he's going to get a lot of great information from him, and certainly have a decision to make. But if some team slaps a first or high second round grade on him, it's going to be a lot to turn down for him to come back and to continue to improve on his progress that he made this year.
Hey, thanks for watching Hunt on LSU. Before you get out of here, do us a couple of favors. Hit that like button, leave your comments below, and subscribe to the channel for all your Fighting Tiger football talk. See you next time.